In life, we all encounter obstacles, and those obstacles come in all different shapes, sizes, and forms. The question is, how do we handle those obstacles? Do we attack them head on, or do we allow them to make us quit? Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast, where we aim to motivate and inspire listeners to never give up on themselves, their dreams, or their goals. We will interview successful people from all walks of life as they share their no-quit stories when they had the choice to give up or give in, but they didn't. We thank you for listening, and we hope to be that jolt of positivity as you go for your greatness. Welcome to episode number 131 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is inspiration. I'm not sure exactly where a quote comes from today, but it's a good one. Be the reason that somebody smiles today. Today's episode is sponsored by the good people over at West Fair Communications, who publish the Westchester County Business Journal and the Fairfield County Business Journal. These newspapers do a wonderful job in covering all aspects of the business world within two of the most influential markets in the New York metropolitan area. You can also take advantage of their daily news feeds, which keep track on the companies and thought leaders in these important regions. For more information, take a look at www.westfaironline.com. Trust me, once you start reading, you won't quit. I think you'll really enjoy today's episode. When it comes to meeting challenges head on, that is exactly what our guest today has done. Not one for making or giving excuses. Emily Hirsh has taken her life's challenges in stride, and she has used them to inspire her and to make her better along the way. At the young age of 23, she has already accomplished quite a bit, and I don't see her stopping at any point soon. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, as Emily shares her story and some incredible pieces of advice along the way. Emily, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
I appreciate you spending some time with us. So the first question we ask every guest is, are you ready to bring it today?
I'm totally ready.
Awesome. So in life, we all encounter obstacles. And I was wondering if you have either a story about perseverance or perhaps a challenging time that tested you, but you kept on going and didn't quit.
Yeah, I have lots of those stories, but I think the most relevant one for this audience is, so I'm young, I'm 23, and I started my business I've always been an entrepreneur, but this business when I was 19. And that was really, I chose a different path by doing this. I grew up in a family that was you got to go to college and get that degree and just wait to do anything business. You have to first, get your foundation. And I started my business and at the same time went to college and tried to do both. And then my business started to take off and I had to make the decision. Basically, I dropped out of college and just pursued my business. And I got, so much pushback from family and friends. And it was a time that I definitely could have quit and just been this is too scary and I can't do this. It was a lot of, obviously, if anyone who knows building a business, there's a lot of hard work that goes into it when you start out as a small solopreneur business owner. And so there was many small moments in there that I definitely could have quit and felt like quitting, but still had to show up. But I think the hardest is when people around you don't see the vision. And so you're kind of on your own of no, really, this will work. Let me just show you. But you have that transition time where you are one of the only ones who sees the vision and you have to kind of push through and show up and make it happen. So that was probably one of the biggest ones in my life. And, it turned out great. I have a very successful business and I'm really glad that I made that decision, but it was definitely hard. I also had a baby young. So at the same time I had that going on, I had a baby at 19, which is why I started my business. So it was a hard time. And a lot of it came from not having the usual support that I would have from other people around me.
That's interesting. So you had both a baby and a business at the young age of 19.
Yeah, at the same time.
That's interesting, and I think that says a lot about who you are, and again, going back to the whole no-quit concept. But I was curious, you mentioned challenging of having to drop out of college and concentrate on the business and having some people that didn't see the vision. Something we often talk about on our episodes are the importance of who's on your bus and who's in your corner. And I was curious during that time, while you were having some of those, let's say, struggles per se of stopping the college and concentrating on the business. And again, you ultimately made a good decision because you have a successful business. But what was it that you were either reading or looking at or watching or potentially speaking to people that helped you stay focused and motivated during those tough times?
Yeah, so I did have my husband who was supportive and that was obviously very helpful. But then I also just surrounded myself in a lot of entrepreneur communities. And for me, that even to this day is such a game changer, because I feel like entrepreneurs are a specific type of person and only other entrepreneurs understand us. So unless you are in that community of people who are like in bigger places than you and have built successful businesses and show up as that inspiring person, you can lose that. And like for me, being in the everyday, like hanging out with friends in my town or my family, I sometimes feel out of place because they don't understand like business, and that's my life. My business is my passion and everything to me. So during that time, I listened to podcasts. Amy Porterfield was a big one for me. I learned a lot from her, and then just surrounded myself and followed people online. That's the amazing thing about social media, is you can follow people and join Facebook groups and surround yourself with communities of people who are where you want to be, so that you can still see that, yes, it's absolutely possible.
It's interesting you touch on that, because that's what I did as well before I launched my podcast, is I connected with a lot of people, listened to a lot of shows. But you mentioned something that was really interesting, is you can connect with a lot of people. And one of the things that we often talk about is the word mentor. And Bob Burg, who is a very dear friend and a successful speaker and author, he spoke about mentors being potentially drive-by mentors. You can have mentors for a longer period of time, but you also could have mentors in your life that are there for a long time. And the thing that you just touched on in regards to social media is really interesting, is 5, 10, 15 years ago, to ever get somebody as a quote-unquote mentor, you had to either physically be in the same city or state, or had to go to them, or they had to be. Now, what I share and I speak about quite often is, today's day and age, it's 1 degree of separation, not 6. So, for example, if I was a fan of your work and I wanted to find out more about you, I don't need to go to your city, or you have to be speaking or working in my city. It's so simple now where I can search you and maybe I find some videos or find your website or find certain things about you. But I would recommend to our listeners is, if there's somebody or something, and it doesn't have to be an entrepreneur space, it could be in any field, you just need to put in the work. And that's something we often talk about, is the importance of taking action. So I'm glad you touched on that for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true.
So I wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind just telling our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you actually do today.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a born entrepreneur, had businesses forever. And even in high school, that's how I bought my first car. I had a business where I helped in an elderly community with like cleaning and organizing. And when I was 19, I was in college and I was a nanny, and I also got pregnant. And that's when I discovered the online business world. And it was a huge game changer, because it was, for me, I realized, wow, I can, still have my business, because I've always wanted a business. I need it. I'd be a very unhappy mom, honestly, without this passion of mine. So I can have that. I can also stay home with my baby and not, put him in a daycare or have to, have him go somewhere without me, or me leave the house all day. And so it was like super attractive to me. And I just jumped in, and I actually started just as a virtual assistant and just charging $18 an hour. And I started getting clients, and I knew nothing at the time. Like I didn't even know Google Drive, which I use hundreds of times a day now, but I didn't even know how to use it. And just a lot of self-taught myself. I'm young, so I have that generation, and I hire young people on my team a lot for this reason, because we have this like ability to just go figure things out online tech-wise if we don't know how to do it. So that's how I taught myself everything. And I was a virtual assistant for about a year, and then I started doing Facebook ads for those clients. And that was obviously really cheap as a virtual assistant doing Facebook ads, but I started to realize how good I was at that, and how much I loved marketing, and started following people like Russell Brunson and other digital marketers and sales funnel strategies, and was just super into it. So I just shifted my business, and that became the sole focus. And in the last year and a half, I've really maybe the last year, I've really scaled to just a full agency, a digital marketing agency. We do Facebook and Instagram ads. I now have a team of 18 people, which is crazy. So I have ads managers who work under me. We manage some really big launches. We managed the B School launch this year. So we're now, successful. I hit 7 figures in January. But all started from just me doing everything as a virtual assistant 3.5 years ago, with the motivation of I just wanted to be able to help support our family and be home with my kid. And I had a lot of odds against me, pregnant at 19, no college degree. I moved out. I'm very independent. So I'd already moved out of the house young at 17. So I was already supporting myself, but it was definitely tough, but I just kind of knew the whole time that this is what I was supposed to be doing. And I probably should have left college sooner, because what I did was I tried to do both. Like even after I had my son, I was taking like online classes to keep my parents happy and pursuing my business and trying to, be a mom. And eventually I was like, well, I have to choose, two of these things. And obviously I have to keep being a mom. So I'm going to go forward with my business because it's paying the bills and it's starting to blow up.
That's a great story, and I appreciate you sharing some of that stuff with us. And I think it talks about the importance of there's not one track for everybody. So I'm not going to say that your track obviously is right or wrong because I didn't know much about you before, but you're where you are today because of perseverance, and I appreciate you touching on that. So I wanted to ask a personal question is, how do you personally define success?
By living the life that you want to live. Absolutely. Like I feel like I've created it from the minute I wake up. My day is exactly what I want it to be. I can travel, which is really important to me. So it's definitely not to me about money, but it's about having the freedom to just live the life totally on your own terms and not somebody else's.
No, I love that. And that's a word that's often been used in our episodes is freedom. So I'm glad you touched on that. And I wanted to ask, if you had to define yourself in only one word, what would that word be?
Driven. Yeah.
You talk. No, that's a good word. Definitely speaks to who you are. You spoke a couple minutes ago about having the day and starting the day and doing what you want. So a question we ask our guest is if you have either a morning or a daily ritual that you swear by that's helped with your success. So I was curious if you have either a daily or morning ritual that you swear by yourself.
Yeah, I do. And I totally agree. Like I think that they're essential. So and especially for me, I have 2 kids now. So a mom of 2 plus running a 7-figure company, like everything has to be routine and structured. But my morning routine is I wake up, I have a green smoothie. I do a workout, 30-minute kettlebell workout every single day. I've done it for so long that if I miss it, my whole day is thrown off. So I have to work out every morning. Then I have breakfast and take my kids. We go on this like 20-minute walk. And I've been doing that for about 6 months and it's the best thing. It's a super short walk, but it's an awesome way. I just leave my phone at home. And before I dive into work, just a great way to connect with my kids before I start my day and also get outside. Even like 10, 15 minutes outside in the morning makes such a big difference in the sun. And then I do about a 5-minute meditation. And then I start my morning every day. My team and I, we have a team huddle. It's 30 minutes and we just check in on various things, our critical number in the company, any issues. We call people out for who's being caught being awesome. And then we do a quick overview of like high priority clients basically. So that's it. That's my morning routine. And I even do, minus the company part, I do it on the weekends, like every single day. If I don't do it, I feel like my whole day is thrown off.
Not to discredit anything that you said, but the thing that stood out to me is you go for a 20-minute walk with your kids, and here's the thing that really stood out is you leave your phone at home. So I want to say major kudos to you. One of the most common answers to that question within the last 3 months has been the importance of not checking your phone first thing in the morning and not putting yourself in that state of reaction as opposed to being proactive. So kudos for you doing that. I myself have a similar, not identical, but similar morning, and I definitely do not leave my phone for 20 minutes. So I can last maybe 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm going to definitely take your advice and see if I can get to 20 minutes here and there. But I do put my phone many times during the day on airplane mode, but definitely don't go for a walk without it for 20 minutes. So that's awesome.
Yeah. Being a mom, I don't know how many moms you've had on here, but it's the best way for me to deal with the mom guilt of having business and trying to manage being a mom is that when I'm with my kids, it's just really present time. So I'll leave my phone for 2 hours in the afternoon. I stop work around 3 every day and then I'm with my kids. And when it's time with my kids, like it's time with my kids and I'm not also working. And I actually deleted email from my phone in January 1st this year. And so I haven't had email on my phone in 6 months and it's been incredible. Like the best thing I ever did.
Wait, say that again?
I deleted email off my phone, the email app.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been the best thing so I haven't had it for 6 months. So I check it only when I'm on. I have an assistant managing my email. So obviously like things are not getting missed, but it was the best thing I did. And for a while I had deleted Facebook too, like for about 2 months. It's back on and I should probably delete it again. But it's great when you do that. And I put a Kindle app in place of where the Facebook app was, and like read a whole book in the time I would have scrolled Facebook.
I love that. I'm very impressed. I definitely don't have the ability to delete my app, and my email app. And I'm not saying in any way that I'm more important or more popular than you, but I think I would literally probably commit suicide or something if I did it. So that's awesome that you did that. And speaking of the Kindle app, I was curious if you've read anything recently or something you'd like to recommend possibly to our listeners.
Well, I'm reading right now Own Your Day. I'm sure you've heard of it.
It's literally on my shelf right now. I have not started it. How is it?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm just starting it. I just am going, like, I'm halfway through maybe, but it's great. I like it a lot. The other book I recently read, well, in the last 6 months, that stood out so much that we actually sent it to our clients as a gift, was The One Thing. Was a really good book.
It's a great book. And Jeff Woods, who works with The One Thing, he was a guest on our show. And I myself have gifted that book to many, many people, and I think both those books. So I'm definitely now I will move the Own Your Day a little bit closer to some of my next books, as I am a voracious reader myself.
Yeah, me too. That's the one thing I wish I had more time for.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things where I always find people say, oh, how do you have so much time? And I say, well, I don't have 29 hours in every day. It's the same 24 that you have. Is you just have to prioritize certain things, and if you're going to read, obviously you're taking time away from something else. So it's always a risk and reward as far as what you're doing. So interesting question for you. If you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
That's a great question. I feel like I'm going to say something, and then like in 2 hours I'm going to be like, this is who I really meant. I mean, I would love to have dinner with like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, one of those really brilliant entrepreneurs. That's the first thing that came to my mind. And I'm sure if I thought more and looked all around on my list of people that I follow, I might come up with a different answer. But that's the first thing I came up with, because they're just so brilliant and so inspiring. Just any big entrepreneur, and to get to have dinner and eat them would be amazing.
No, I that would be a remarkable dinner. So one of the things we talk about a lot of our speaking and some of our training with our clients is the word accountability. And I was curious what the word accountability means to you.
To me, that means, like, the first thing that comes to mind is discipline. And like, for me, holding yourself accountable on many levels is necessary during the day. Like, I'm a very disciplined person. That could be another word you describe me by. So I'm a little extreme with that, but I attribute that a lot to my success. So holding myself accountable for my team, for my clients, for my family, for my husband, like that all comes up in how I structure my day. And, with someone, like, as a mom and a business owner, it's not easy. You have a lot to juggle. And so you have to hold yourself accountable that you're basically putting in enough energy in all of those areas.
No, discipline's a great word, and there's a former Navy SEAL, Jocko Willink, who just wrote a book, Discipline Equals Freedom, or he wrote it, I think it came out in October of 2017, but it's a great book, and it does focus on being disciplined and all those things. So I'm glad that you touched on that. We recently launched a initiative with our company, both on our podcast as well as some of the other platforms and with our clients, and it's called Paying It Forward. And I was curious what Paying It Forward means to you and what the concept or thought, and again, knowing the type of work you do, I was just curious if you could share a little bit on that insight.
I mean, obviously to me, paying it forward means, like an obvious answer would be like helping people, right? But to me, I think what I try and do is either give people the opportunity to live the life of freedom I have, or inspire other people to do that. So I have a lot of team members who got to leave their 9-to-5 and work from home. Like, I have a lot of moms on my team, and it's been life-changing for them. And like, that's what this online business world did for me. And so the more people I can like help do that by either like directly hiring them or just inspiring them using my platform, like, that's paying it forward. Because I feel like if I had somebody 3.5 years ago, just like right there on Facebook, who was like my exact story of a young mom, no college degree, and wanted to start a business, like telling me, you could do it, it would have been a big game changer. So for me, if I can do that for just one person, then that will be life changing.
No, that's awesome. And I think that that question for me is a little bit open-ended because it's not a yes or no answer. And I love people's responses because it means different things to different people. But what you said was just perfect and right up your alley because being a mom yourself, you want to give back and pay it forward. And I love that concept. And I think it's something that we all can do, which is why we started this initiative, because we all don't have the ability to donate $1 million, and we all don't have the ability to be charitable with our time and say, okay, every other weekend, for 6 hours on Saturday and 6 hours on Sunday, I can do this. But what we all can do is we can find little ways to pay it forward, and we often talk on that on our show. So I really appreciate you touching on that. I was curious, maybe you have an answer to this, but what is the best advice you remember ever receiving?
I think the best advice is probably not a direct thing, but a subtle, like the way I grew up with my mom and my parents, just of, you can have whatever you want, basically. My mom is very much, both my parents are like that, but I think that put a lot in me, even though they fought me when I decided to go make certain decisions. But like you're in control of your life. And my parents, I grew up that way of like, okay, well, if you don't like it, then change it. If you don't want to do that, then like you're in control of that. And so that's been the best, because that's what I did with my entire life. And like that made me brave enough to go and make these decisions 90% of people won't go and do because it's too scary, right? So, and when I hear, friends or people saying like, oh, I just wish I could like move and go do this, or I could travel and do this, like sometimes I have to step back and feel more compassion than I do, because I'm like, well, why can't you? Like, you're in control of that. So having that just be like pounded in me over and over again, and as an example growing up, I think was definitely one of the best things that could have happened, because it allowed me to go and make decisions that then in return created a life that is incredible.
No, I love that. And that's always interesting, is to ask that question, because it's typically parents or grandparents or a teacher or somebody somewhere that inspired people to go after. And it's not just from the entrepreneurial side. It could be sports, it could be politics, it could be hobbies. And I think it's important. And that's something that, again, going back to one of the initial things I said in the interview, is the question and the concept of who's on your bus and who's in your corner. So speaking of favorites, I was curious if you have a favorite quote.
I do, not on top of my head. I wish I could think of something great right now. I mean, I have probably so many that I've read, but like remembering them, I'm not a big quote person, or like remembering the quotes. So
that's good. I wanted to challenge you. So you answered everything else perfectly. So we stumped you on one thing. So
yeah. And now I'm gonna remember it. Like I'm gonna look it up.
And next time we talk, you're gonna say, "Hey, Chris, I got these 14 quotes I just wanted to share with you."
Yeah. Right.
So before we let you go, I wanted to ask, and I was curious if you have any parting words you'd like to leave for our listeners.
The only thing I'll say is like I said, my paying it forward is if I can inspire someone to go and make a decision that feels like they're getting pushed back on, people are telling them that they can't do it, but it feels right. If I can inspire one person to do that, then I've pretty much done what I feel like I'm here for. So just remember, like, what's best for you in your life, and always listen to that, because it creates a very powerful, incredible life when you do listen to that. And if you're feeling like most of the time when you go do uncomfortable things, you're going to get pushback. Otherwise, it's not stepping outside of your comfort zone enough. So just remember that.
No, I love that. And that's something that we share quite a bit. And a lot of listeners talk about that typically in one way, shape, or form, is the importance of stepping outside of your comfort zone to get to that next level of greatness. And only you can define greatness. So I wanted to ask you, last question is, for our listeners who'd like to follow you, connect with you, or possibly find out a little bit about your actual business and you yourself, what's the best way for them to do so?
My website, emilyhirsh.com, and it's HIRSH. A lot of people put a C in there. Is the best place. I've got my blog. I do regular Facebook Lives on my Facebook page. So there's lots to look at there and read about my business and my team and what we're up to.
Well, listen, I truly appreciate the time you spent with us. You shared some awesome stuff, and I love what you spoke about in regards to paying it back for not only your company, and I would recommend for our listeners to definitely connect with you and follow you, and I truly appreciate you spending some of your time with us today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to episode number 131. Facing both college and a young pregnancy at the young age of only 19, Emily could have given her fair share of excuses. Instead, she made a tough decision to drop out of college and begin her own business. But in her heart, she knew that it was the right thing to do. Emily spoke about her definition of success, and she said that success is living the life you want to live and freedom. Another great answer. One thing I absolutely love that she shared is that every single morning she goes for a 20-minute walk with her kids, and she leaves her phone at home. Talk about eliminating distractions. She has also gone as far as deleting the email app from her phone, and instead, she has downloaded the Kindle app. I must say, she's a woman that inspires, but she's also a woman that takes specific action. When I asked her about accountability, the first word that came to her mind was discipline. In her parting words, Emily stressed the importance of getting out of your comfort zone. She also spoke quite a few times on today's episode about the importance of inspiring others. As we continue with our Pay It Forward movement, who in your life can you inspire today? Maybe a friend, family member, or even a coworker. Who in your life over the last day or a couple of days has looked either a bit down or perhaps just seemed out of it? Decide right now, today, to reach out to them in your own special way so that they know you are thinking about them and that you have their best interests at heart. Inspire them, pay it forward, and go for your greatness. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.